Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your valuable time right here at the Adapt 2030 channel. Official announcements: BRICS block, gold-backed currency, dollar jumping off the cliff, continues below 100 on the dollar index. No such thing as a low energy rich country. Pulling into the red zone, bad idea. Natural, man-made. Looking at the extreme rainfall totals, Northeast U.S. Rutgers Snow Lab, less snow in the spring, more snow in the fall. Wheat and corn prices up. Summer ducks out here at the Homestead. And be careful of 4% acidity in the vinegar, the substitute from the 5%, which will make your food unsafe. And to start you with a moment of zen, knowing that we do have the ability to prepare for these changes. Our ancestors from the last how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years has survived up to this point without supermarkets that were introduced in the 1940s after World War II, doing away with victory gardens. We're going to have to step back into some of this lifestyle once again, which means you're going to have some of your own protein sources. We prefer eggs, not the meat from the duck, but this is our addition here. Look at these three beautiful gifts that have arrived on the Homestead. Swiss crested apple bomb. We'll be able to get these nice and fattened up. Hopefully producing eggs before the winter onsets. And also wild foraging time in play right now is what we got for about 30 minutes, going along a break in the field. Mimosa flowers, you got to read about the tea and the relaxation benefits from that. Japanese honeysuckle, green tea, adding in there, excellent. And then the blackberries. If you know what you're looking for, this is a perfect time to wild forage. And also what we have, a couple different types of basil in the garden. And what we grew ourselves to throw into the pasta. Thank the chicken for the eggs. Now, one thing you need to think about too, if you're going to be doing any canning, especially with different kind of vegetables in a vinegar bath, and this is something to be incredibly aware of. And Crystal Grant, thanks for putting this post out here. A little warning for those who are going to be canning pickles or pickling using vinegar. Safe pickling requires 5% acidity. And what has happened? There is an introduction across all supermarkets in the United States, 4% acidity. This is a direct, purposeful rug pull of your ability to store foods. That 5% versus 4% is the difference between you maybe ingesting something that's going to make you sick. Please read the label if you're going to do canning this year. It's kind of astounding that, this is happening right now when a lot of people are going to start to can and garden and, try to get off more complex systems as we see supply chains breaking down further, food prices rising. Word's on the street, you're going to need to be more self-sufficient, and it's just so quirky that suddenly a 4% vinegar is introduced across what you consider the Western world right in time for canning season. How many people would not pick that up and continue to fill their pantries full of 4% vinegar bath? Yeah, that'd be a lot of ruined produce, and you wouldn't want to eat it. It wouldn't be safe. But perhaps that's the plan, scare everybody away from canning. Dry weather pushing grain markets higher. Corn and wheat up and up, and it continues from the beginning of June. Right around the 10th, it started creeping up there, and as we get into July, these prices are continuing to rise in the futures market. A surging national debt is bullish for gold. The debt ceiling drama ended with nominal budget cuts and a shiny new credit card with no limit for the federal government. The first business day after the U.S. Treasury increased our national debt by $350 billion. It's no wonder Google searches for how to buy gold hit record levels in 2023. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late.
Patriot Gold Group has the No Fee for Life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver on qualifying rollovers. Also, Patriot Gold Group, Consumer Affairs top-rated IRA gold dealer 6 years in a row. Give them a call, 888-546-7020. And now on with the video.
And the reason I want to bring that chart up here is the observed 12-state U.S. Corn Belt summer temperature trends from 1973 to 2022. This is from the U.S. Energy Policy. You notice the observations are actually on the left. The blue, every other thing that you see there with red is a model. Not actual observations, but predicted model runs that are showing you the increase in temperature across the grain belts. And since we're talking about extremes, huge amounts of cavitation and gyration in our atmosphere compression event, cloud cells and jet streams bunching in on themselves, ringing out in the skies. Not all-time record rainfall, but very close when we look into the New England area. National Weather Service putting this one out here out of Burlington, Vermont. +7 is over 7 inches, so down that entire center of the range there, huge amounts of rainfall. That's why they were seeing these massive floods come down. That is an enormous amount of rainfall, 7 inches. Get to higher ground. Speaking of rainfall, well, we can turn it into snow if temperatures are cool enough. So Rutgers Snow Lab finally putting everything out. We are finally away from the June 30th end of the season, quote unquote. We're into now a new year, so the data stands as it stands. Winter Northern Hemisphere snow extent. Now that black line is the general trend back from 1967 to present. Looks like it's increasing a little bit. Now people will have you believe that that's an increase in moisture because of evaporating oceans. Now there's going to be some anomalies because of the water vapor ejecta from the Hunga Tonga eruption last year that increased 10% moisture across Earth's atmosphere. But in a general trend, downward spring northern hemisphere snow extent. So generally in the spring there's not as much snow leaving and exiting out of winter, but then look at the opposite, the fall northern hemisphere snow extent. Definitely increasing in the fall. If you're a farmer, you're going to want to harvest those crops early before an out-of-season blizzard comes ripping in and burying everything. It does look like there's definitely more snowfall in fall than there is in the springtime, just in a general basis, just saying. And also you're going to start to see these changes with temperature and rainfall as things start to amplify further now that the ozone is going to be rapidly depleting in the southern hemisphere due to that same eruption. I've done a few reports on this before about the mesospheric ice crystals and the ozone breakdown. That'll have a detrimental effect on barley production in the southern hemisphere, as well as the insect life will be affected. We'll get these inversions in temperature, and you should see much different storm systems, much more powerful systems evolving beginning now. Well, they'll have you believe it's because of you. And, this movement from one energy system to another into renewables instead of fuel-less generators running off the Earth's magnetic field, which would be the best jump to go to versus an interim garbage e-waste step. But, companies got to make money. No such thing as a low-energy rich country. But they want to take us to the low-energy universal basic income planet. No, thank you. I'll let you pause the graph here. This comes from the World Bank and the International Energy Agency putting this one out here, electricity and income per capita, all countries. And if you go far to the left, you'll notice Burundi, Somalia, Sierra Leone. Their GDP reflecting the amount of available energy and electricity for the average citizen. And then if we swing way up to Norway, Ireland, and the United States, it's the complete opposite. Huge amounts of electricity, huge amounts of income. And speaking of things, creating or destroying civilizations, let's go back 5,000 years. For the GISP2 ice core temperature data, this is only a partial. This thing goes back into the Younger Dryas era. circa 12,000 years ago. This is only a snippet of 5,000 years. But the yellow lines, natural increase, natural increase, natural increase, natural increase. Oh, man-made increase. Let's go back to no such thing as a low-energy rich country. We are all heading into serfdom unless you own gold. Kenya putting it out here. BRICS countries are planning to introduce a new trading currency which will be backed by gold. Now the official announcement will be here in August, but they're seasoning you up right now. And as that news rolled out, we saw yet the third bounce, and we're looking for a trend line here, support line for a better term. Breach that and down below 100. Now this should continue as more countries flee out of the dollar. They may talk to the blue in the face about, no, it'll be this or that, and nothing can compete. Well, obviously something's competing now. If because of that singular news announcement from the BRICS aligned nations that the US dollar is continuing downward. So if one drops, the other should increase. And looking at the Swiss franc against the US dollar, that doesn't make sense to me either unless one of those is decreasing. Gee, which one do you think it is? The new gold standard will be of great benefit of strengthening a new single currency, a direct competitor against the US dollar. And where does that take our planet? And more importantly, our economy. That's going to be the thing. The life is going to be upset and tipped for a little bit here. Again, coming back to complex systems in the breakdown. If there's no financing available, do you think your supermarkets are going to be full every time? Do you think that your hospitals are going to be well stocked? You know, if there's no way to pay for it, or there's less wanting of it, or if there's embargoes from other parts of the world, you know, the U.S. is completely reliant now on imports, where in the 1950s and 60s after World War II, you know, everything was manufactured here, including the steel and the aluminum, the raw materials that we needed for anything to be produced in this country. That's all been offshored. First it was to Mexico with NAFTA, then it's all over in Asia now. The control of the finance system on the planet is swinging over. Now just ask yourself a serious question. Would you want a debasing, devaluing US dollar backed by nothing? Or would you want a currency that could be convertible to gold, where you walk in and you slide it over the counter and they give you a piece of gold back equal to the value? Which one would you want? Which one do you think trade partners around the world will want? Moving from one commodity to another, or that being settled in gold, where that gold is moved to the vault in your account of your nation. Corporations obviously are going to be going with this. They're going to digitize the gold, obviously, but it'll be held in a reserve that can be proven that the gold exists. So a digitized gold bar, or an actual physical gold bar, as long as it's audited and is there, and you could take delivery of that at any time. That's the way the world's moving to. That's the way the world was before the formation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. Creature from Jekyll Island, a must-read book. Because see, we've run to the end of the debt cycle and the debt issuance, so it has to collapse anyway. There's really nowhere else for it to go. The debt issuance will be in the rebuilding of the new world in the new crop zones to push out in North Africa and the Sahel. And all these nations that have been downtrodden and pushed into extreme poverty, that's where the debt will be focused into next for this next 80-year fourth turning cycle. So what happens when you need to extinguish an old system, do away with it and bring up a completely new system and reshuffle that and do the same thing, 2.0, but shift it into now areas that have never had this type of wealth and opulence before? That's the world we're moving into. So something's going to have to be rearranged on the Titanic here. These deck chairs are moving over to a lifeboat. That's where we sit. So as you look at this with the food pricing and the trade blocks and the reassurances of nothing's going to happen, that's when you should run and start working even faster, because you know something's going to happen. Do you think they're going to come out and just tell everybody, oh yeah, by the way, the US dollar is actually going to continue to trickle downward as the more issuance of these commodities-backed settlements and gold-backed settlements, the more they do that, the less the dollar is going to be wanted or worth? They're not going to tell you. You'd panic. You take your money out. Oh gee, they're trying to limit what you can do with bank withdrawals. I'll get to that in the next video, but join us tonight, Ransom Godwin and myself, when we go 2 hours at a time talking about this Revolution Radio Studio A, 10 p.m. to midnight. You can join us on Rumble, where we're streaming live on the Adapt 2030 channel. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Bye for now.